Now, the search continues for missing flood victims in KwaZulu-Natal. Some pupils are slowly returning to school and government is working on building temporary shelters. Our reporters Dasen Thathiah and Kulu are on the ground, and Dasen joins us now. Dasen, you're in Hillcrest, in the Hillcrest area. First of all, good morning, good to see you. Tell us what's going on there. There's a water shortage. Is that still persisting?
So lots going on here, and I think the most important of this is that there is going to be a visit today by the eNCA Water Board to one of the affected families. That's the Gumbi family, which is in the Bushwini area, which is not far from where I am now. And that's where that family is still has 3 children that are missing. 2 of them aged 13, another aged 8, and they've been missing for the past 2 weeks. But the issue here relates to exactly what happened on the day of those heavy rains. So this family, the Gumbi family, who we spoke to yesterday, have told us that there was a structure that was completely destroyed during those rains. That's where the 3 children were in, as well as 2 other members of that family. But fortunately, those 2 members were able to survive that flood. But the issue here relates to a pipe, a water supply pipe, which is part of the eNCA water infrastructure, which they claim has caused some of that damage. Now, in response to that, eNCA Water is planning to meet with the family to establish exactly what has happened, to find out if that is in fact the case. But let's listen into an interview that I did with one of the family members, in fact, a mother of one of the missing children, where she spoke about this in more detail.
Isikhathini esidlulile since kwaqala into ngomhla ka-12 besinzima kakhulu kuthina ezumndeni ukufuna nje amalungu omndeni ningatholi lutho, not even umunwe wabo. So bekunzima kakhulu, sizamile singalitholi usizo. Hlobo umngeni infrastructure yabo naye i-destroy yonke into, abakaze bafike bazosisiza ngalutho. So konke lokhu bekuvele kulaphezulu kuthina emahlombe ukusinda sifuna sisizwe umphakathi uwodwa bona bengaqhamuki. So nje ukuze njengamanje basibona laba ukuqala nqa selokhu kwenzeka lento ukuthi sibona abantu abazoza kusisiza siyaqala. We hoping for the best. Yeah, siyakhuleka kunzima ngifuna manga.
So we're hearing there the family member is basically blaming the infrastructure for what happened there. And you're saying that the eNCA authorities will be there. But what is the purpose of their visit now, a few days later?
Well, I guess it would be to find out exactly what went wrong and to find out if that is in fact part of the infrastructure that is there. But it's really a horrible sight. We were at the home yesterday and you can see that there's a massive pipe that is now resting on where the family home was. There are 2 structures on that property, and one of those structures, as I said, was housing the children. And it really is a horrible story of how a grandmother was holding the youngest one, Lubanzi, 8 years old, and they were both washed down that river. The family says about 1 kilometer or more down that river, and at that point, when the grandmother struck a tree, the child slipped out of her arm, and she was fortunately able to be rescued, but the child has not been seen since. So rescue teams were out there yesterday, search and rescue teams, and they were trying to cover that area. They covered about 8 kilometers in that vicinity, but all they found were, the items that had come out of the house, clothing items, a vehicle that had come from the property, but still no sign of the children. So I understand your question in exactly what would this achieve now, but I think it's more of a fact-finding mission to find out what the next steps would be if in fact what the family is claiming is true.
That's a horrible story, 100%. It's a sad, horrible story. But talk to me about it in general. I mean, you're just in the Hillcrest area, but are you seeing any progress when it comes to maybe refurbishing some of the infrastructure that's been destroyed through the, during the flooding at all in general?
Well, look, to be fair, the municipality has been doing work. We've been seeing teams out at night. We've been getting reports of areas that have been repaired, from electricity infrastructure to water infrastructure. Personally, we also did not have water at the beginning, and that water supply has been restored in some areas, and that's the kind of progress. But you would understand that there are still some areas that have not been reached, and that is the frustration that residents are facing right now. So that's why we're seeing that a number of protests popping up. We're seeing anger, really, around water tankers, about the distribution of water, and residents want this to happen quickly. It's going for 2 weeks now since the flood, and they feel that they can't live without these services. So that's happening on the one side. On the other side, there are still active searches that are taking place. Even this morning, members are deployed from the Virginia airport, where the operations center is, to continue these searches for families. So there is a lot going on the one hand, as I mentioned, basic services that are needed. On the other hand, families that are still looking for loved ones, and though that number is still sitting at well above 50 at this point, at the last time we checked.
All right, Dasen Thathiah, thank you so much for that reporting for us. We'll catch up with you a little bit later, and we'll see if the Umgeni authorities do come visit that family a little bit later on.